I can remember using hammers since I was 5 years old. I built tree houses, I built boats, I tried my hand at sharpening 16-penny nails on a, I'd get them hot and try blacksmithing because it seemed so compelling. I've smashed my thumb I don't know how many times, and so I have an intimate relationship with hammers because I've been a builder and a blacksmith since, in the intervening 60 years, 45 of them at a pro level. And so if you clicked this video to try to figure out why in the world someone would need 5 different hammers, you've come to the right place. Before I take one more step, you came here to learn about the 5 hammers you need, and you're looking at a desk that has 7 hammers on it. That's because 4 of these, 2 pairs, are essentially the same hammer with subtle variations that you can choose or luck into on your own and get similar results. But the 5 categories that I have here are hammers for carpentry and general projects around the house, hammers if you find yourself needing to work with metal at all, hammers when you really need to drive or break or move or remove something heavy, and a hammer that is in fact soft, a rubber mallet that won't leave a mark on whatever it is that you have to hit. Let me start with the category that's most commonly needed. And the pair of hammers, the type of hammer that can, in a pinch, be used on any of the other applications, and that is a claw hammer, a carpenter's hammer. We think of these as carpenter's hammer because they have a face either smooth or waffled, textured, for driving the nail, and they have claws either radically bent, fairly straight, or slightly bent for pulling nails. The uses are intuitive and obvious, and if you don't have one of these around the house somewhere, you're going to wish that you did, if not today, then certainly tomorrow. There's a whole conversation about how heavy these should be, and I'm not going to dive into that right here. I'll just say that something to keep in mind is that the energy discharged by a hammer blow increases roughly as the square of the mass and the cube of the speed. Now that's not exact. If you look in the comment section to my other hammer videos, you'll see the real equation, but the bottom line is these 2 hammers are about the same weight. I think this little S-wing's a little heavier than this stiletto. This is a titanium hammer. It's ridiculously expensive, and boy do I love it. I'm never going back to a solid steel hammer. Now I don't know if I would have paid the money for this when I was a young man because I was strong, and these didn't exist, and they would have laughed me off the job. But now, the length of the handle, the speed that's generated, and the ease on my elbow makes this a seller. Estwing is a great brand. This is a smooth face. Maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need a more rounded and thus finish hammer applicable set of claws. I don't know. But you've got to have or find, either at a garage sale or at a hardware store or somewhere else, a carpenter's hammer to have in your possession. Now there's another obvious difference between these hammers. This has got a steel handle with some sort of a plastic grip. This has got a wood handle. Hickory, it's great. Perhaps it's only confirmation bias, love a wood handle. I don't mind replacing wood handles. I like that whole process. I like the liveliness and the coefficient of friction, the way it sticks in my hand. I just like it. I like this too, and this is a handle that you're never going to break ordinarily. Steve Hood, the most efficient and frankly wise and productive carpenter I've ever known or worked with, has used the same fiberglass Vaughan handled hammer, 5 or 6 different iterations of the same hammer for his whole career. So there are any number of reasons to like any of the various type of handles, but I'll just tell you for the record, I love a good piece of hickory. Let's cut to the engineer's hammer or cross-peen hammer for blacksmithing or any other of, various applications. If you've got to drive something or flatten something or upset the end of something or cut off a piece of wire on the edge of a piece of angle iron, if you've got to hit metal for any reason, you're probably going to want to have some sort of a ball peen, cross peen, straight peen. Any number of different faces are available on hammers that can be used in metalwork. You can find them for almost no money at garage sales, so get one. This is a 2-pounder. That's probably a little less. Oh, that's a Craftsman hammer, by the way. Fairly old. I mean, look around. Maybe you'll find something classy, but you're never sorry to have an engineer's hammer, a ball peen hammer, a cross peen hammer, or the equivalent in a 1 to 2 pound size in your possession. If you ever do automotive work, sometimes you have to drive out a bolt or a nut, or take a center punch or a drift and tap something out. If you're going to want to drive a tent stake, maybe your wife wants to drive a tent stake and she doesn't want to go out and get your single jack or your sledgehammer because this feels like plenty to her, but she needs to drive a stake into the garden or into the ground or help the kids set up a tent in the backyard. This is a more useful tool than this would be. But let me reiterate, this will do in a pinch. And when you've just got to hit something, a hammer is a hammer is a hammer, sort of. So now let's get to a little heavier lifting. Let's talk about the bigger artillery, right? Single jack is a sledgehammer that you can pick up and use with one hand. You know, if you got to get two hands on it, you can, but it ranges from, let's say, 3 to 6 pounds. You know, yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6 pound hammers are single jacks. And for tearing things apart, when you've got to work overhead and in close proximity and drive a big stake into the ground, or break a pipe off, or knock the corner off of, I don't know, fill in the blank. There's something that has to be hit really hard. You've got to drive a concrete stake. You've got to hold the stake and hit it with a hammer. It's hard with a double jack. It's nice to have something in the 3 to 6 pound range, single jack. And let me just throw out there that this is a hammer that I invented. It's the form setter, it's what it's called, and it is impossible to beat for utilitarian work that includes driving things and digging in the dirt. You got both tools, one hand. It's bigger than a brick hammer. It's not a mason's hammer. You can hit something hard and something's going to happen. Check out the website if you'd like one of these, because it's the only place in the world to get it as far as I know. And then if you've really got to do something serious, you can find at garage sales a double jack. 8, 10, 12, 16, 20 pounds, however much you can manage, you've got to have something that you can get two hands on and break something. Now the last item is kind of specialized. And if I'm honest, I've really probably only had to have something like this in my hand maybe 50 times in my life. Now that's not a lot. But if you're an auto body or I don't know, crafts or jobs or hobbies that I haven't messed with much, a rubber mallet is something that will impart the energy of a blow and not bruise the work. Because I don't care which of these other hammers you use, if you use it on the corner of a piece of wood, it better not matter because you can't repair the damage. But this will push energy, sudden impact energy into a piece of work, and no one is the wiser. Now there are way more hammers than this, but if I was going to boil it down to 5, it would be a rubber mallet, a single jack, a double jack, some kind of an engineer's type of hammer, and a straight claw, probably smooth face if you're just going to pick one, in order to just kind of deal with whatever you've got to deal with when you've just got to have a hammer. Now for most of us, or at least for most of the people that I know, all of our activity boils down to a fairly small number of tools and phone calls and programs that we watch. I mean, regardless of how many options are available to us, a lot of what we actually do is much smaller. And for me, my 2 GOPE 2 hammers, the ones that I use every day that I'm working, is first the form setter. It's a must-have every day that I'm in the dirt or driving concrete stakes. This is the tool I use. And by the way, I was just awarded a patent on this, a design patent. I can't hardly believe it. And we have them for sale on the website. So there's that. And then this. I have more time with this in my hand than with this, because most of the time, this will do most of what I'm doing if I'm not in the blacksmith shop. So in the comments, would you just kind of point out what are your 2 go-to hammers? The ones that if everything else went away, you would have to have those? Because people read the comments, and frankly, they learn more from the comments than they learn from me directly. It's the hive mind that arrives at the most uniformly applicable conclusions. So thank you for that. And thank you for watching Essential Craftsman. And keep up the good work.